Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the Market Internal Review for June 2nd, 2023, Friday. Had a phenomenal day today on the market. Massive gap up. Quite a surprise given the VOLD analysis that I gave on yesterday's video with the extreme high closure. That being said, I did suggest that while there could be a pullback, I didn't expect too much of one because VOLD was moving with SPY, or rather SPY was moving with VOLD, and the ad closed near that upper bullish range that we like to see. So definitely an aggressive gap up, barely tested the gap. We did test the lower standard deviation on the TWAP session, and once we reclaimed that, it was off to the races for the rest of the morning session, breaking out of that first standard deviation and riding that line, oscillating around it for the rest of the session. Trend was showing an imbalance right out of the gate with some extreme closures. The tick average closures was over zero for the entire morning session. Ad and VOLD bands were green. We had some oscillation here. This one I think was a data skew. If you go look at the VOLD chart, we can see that even though we had that massive upper extreme closure on VOLD, we had a gap down. So the 20 SMA has to catch up to that. So that is kind of an issue with this analysis. So you always want to go and confirm with the charts if you don't trust this, or you can just stick to looking at TWAP and the price action at the open. So extreme closures at the tick high range over 900 to 1,000. I mean, we had this one here, which, this one was 1530-ish, so very high. That gave us an early indication. I always say whichever extreme closure we have first in the day usually sets a tone. So yeah, we had some extreme closures, barely anything under zero the entire morning. Plenty of opportunities here based off of the tools that I've provided on TradingView and had the review video for in the announcement video. Very simple. A clear entry here was we get a trend flip back on the ad, and we were already completely bullish on the VOLD. Extreme average closures coming up all over the place in the morning, still closing bullish in that upper 500 range, and hop in on the reclaim of TWAP, at least take profits over here at the first standard deviation, hold some runners if you like. Just phenomenal. I mean, you could have made your whole day just there in the span of about 30 minutes or less if you took all your profits here. That could have been a 16-minute trade, which, if we take a look at that, let's see, what kind of move was that? So it was a $1.10 move on SPY. Very easily could have netted you some nice profits there. If you held out for an entire half hour, you're looking at about a $2 move. Just great. We did have some oscillation around 12:30. Then we get a nice move up. I don't know if this fizzles out at the second deviation. Let's turn that on. No, it doesn't ever really touch that. It does touch here, really close. So I think that's a clear exit sign there. It's also continuing to just make new high of days at that point. So I think this right here, this area here was the trade of the day. Fantastic setup. And we saw roughly this exact same setup yesterday. If we go review, so you kind of get this W pattern, we oscillate around TWAP. This time we were under, we come back up, retest, break back below, reclaim, boom, there you get in. So very similar setup to yesterday, just a slightly bit different characteristic on the open. We can go take a look at the weekly session TWAP. So being Friday, this is the end of the weekly TWAP. We'll start a new one next week. Very far away from that. Even the second deviation, we're riding that. Oh, that's very interesting. So it's bouncing off the second deviation of the weekly TWAP. Interesting. Tick levels, no surprise. We didn't even see any red tick levels. Surprised there's not one down here, to be honest. That barely registered, that's why, on the negative side of tick. Even more, this trade that I pointed out, TWAP reclaim entry, you could have waited till here, but I like entering around the TWAP. Or if you like to call bottoms, down here. plenty of tick levels reclaimed. This could give you confidence if you entered from TWAP as we break these and hold and we keep rising to continue to stay into the trade. Beautiful. Let's go take a look at QQQ. Qs was a little bit more rough today. I noticed that they were struggling to retain their highs, unlike SPY. We actually started to see the TWAP basically just flatten out into the end of the day. Not as strong. They're not holding their second deviation weekly TWAP like SPY was. So again, as I mentioned before, Apple, Nvidia, some of the bigger names that have had tremendous moves, at some point, I think it's just common sense that at some point there needs to be some kind of a relief. And we just haven't seen that yet, but who knows? Who knows how long these bulls can keep buying. Let's look at Dow. Okay, Dow, very similar, maybe even a little smoother, but pretty much just spot on with SPY. Didn't have near the dip in the morning that SPY did, but just holds that first deviation break and just rides that all the way into the end of the day. Phenomenal. And the Russell, I know, was pretty strong as well. Did have a dip similar to SPY, reclaimed TWAP, and just went for it. Not much else to look at. These kind of dips down here on the add 20 SMA trend, showing these red triangles here. You could use that as an exit signal if you were in longs from down here. You also see that the imbalance indication for trend was starting to decline here. We didn't have any indication of balance or imbalance. So that could be a good exit signal if you're content with this nice move up. Or you can use this to say, okay, I'm going to wait to exit until we break back below, which we did have. So you could break down here, or you could look to see if it's going to be reclaimed and you can re-enter, assuming things are green, which, things didn't really turn green back until, roughly about here. And that's a little too far away from any logical stops that I would like to use. So it'd be a little bit more risky. I mean, you could make the claim that with strong buying, you could maybe just get in anywhere and ride it up. But, sometimes that'll burn you really bad. So I like to use these technical dynamic levels to base my stops and base my risk off of. Okay, so let's look at the tick chart. So tick raw chart here. Again, average closures, we already know, mostly over 0 in the morning session. Lots of chunks of bars just all up on the positive side. You can see that we started, just at an extreme high here on tick, 1,520. So really incredible. We had about only one really hard closure on the bearish side. We did have a downtick collective of about 913 stocks. Trend, much like the other day, where I said it could be skewed, this is another example of that. We see it starting at extreme highs again. So this is definitely oversold territory. It could be, safe for shorts. It could be safe for longs. You got to look at the trend. You got to look at the direction here. This is clearly a downtrend. You can't really wait sometimes on trend to make its move and understand where the direction is on it. But if you start to see these huge wick bars down, yes, we did see a spike up. I think that correlates with SPY's down move. But on the whole, right, we're not seeing 2-point valuation hold up here. It's rejecting every time. So as long as you see that stair step downward move, that's a good sign, and that's safe enough for longs. It has to come down here to be considered bullish and potentially overbought if it's all the way below this 0.5 level. And here's the ad. Early in the morning, I saw ad over 2K. This is rare. That was shocking to me, and definitely was a little bit more cautious with longs. Everything just so green. Something had to give. We had that gap up. I was expecting potentially a gap test, and we came down a little bit back to the low value at open, and we just came right back up and oscillated around that 2K. We hit at one point 2,100 stocks in advancement, so just incredible. And VOLD here again. VOLD showed zero weakness whatsoever, immense volume just piling into the advancement of the New York Stock Exchange. Here's your 20 SMA retests. This one here was around 12:15-ish, 12:30-ish. This one here around 2. So just absolutely incredible. I'm sure there are some names, individual names, that just moved to insane new highs today compared to earlier this week or maybe even last week. Okay, folks, I think that wraps it up for the review. Some really great trade opportunities using these tools. If you've got any suggestions for me or any questions, feel free to reach out in the comments. Hope you had a fantastic trading day and have a great weekend. Thanks for watching.